Imagine waking up one morning, looking out your window at the freshly fallen snow and seeing a single set of footprints. They lead directly from the dark woods to your front door. But there are no footprints leading away. This isn't the opening scene of a horror movie. This is the terrifying reality of the Hinterkaifeck murders, one of the most chilling and perplexing unsolved mysteries in German history. Welcome to the Black Box, where we uncover the darkest secrets. Our story begins in 1922 on a remote and isolated farmstead called Hinterkaifeck, tucked away deep in the Bavarian woods, about an hour's drive from Munich. Life here was hard, isolated and quiet. The family living on the farm, the Grubers, were known for being reserved and keeping to themselves. The patriarch, Andreas Gruber, was a stern and unlikable man, while his wife Casilia was known for her piety. They lived with their widowed daughter, Victoria, and her two children, 7-year-old Casilia and 2-year-old Joseph. The family had just hired a new maid, Maria Baumgartner, who had arrived on the farm only hours before the tragedy unfolded. Life on the farm was routine and uneventful until the strange occurrences began. A few days before the massacre, Andreas confided in his neighbors about a series of unsettling events. He told them he had discovered a set of footprints in the fresh snow, leading from the dense forest straight to the farmhouse. He searched for hours, but he couldn't find a single track leading back into the woods. It was as if someone had walked out of the forest, entered their property, and simply vanished. The family was on edge. That same night, their unease grew into outright fear. They heard strange, heavy footsteps coming from the attic above them. Andreas grabbed his shotgun and searched every corner of the attic, but he found nothing. No one was there. Yet, the sounds persisted on subsequent nights, a constant, unseen presence that haunted their home. Soon after, a set of house keys mysteriously disappeared. Then, a newspaper from Munich, a publication they had never subscribed to, inexplicably appeared on their porch. The feeling of being watched, of an intruder lurking just out of sight, became overwhelming. Andreas told a neighbor that he felt they were no longer safe, but he refused to leave the farm. This was their home. They were right to be afraid. On the evening of March 31st, 1922, a Friday, the family, along with their new maid, vanished. For the next few days, no one from Hinterkaifeck was seen. Young Casilia didn't show up for school. The family missed Sunday church service, which was highly unusual for the devoutly religious Casilia Gruber. But neighbors passing by saw smoke rising from the chimney, and the farm animals seemed tended to, so they assumed the family was simply ill or choosing to remain isolated. It wasn't until 4 long days had passed that a search party, led by a concerned neighbor named Lorenz Schlittenbauer, decided to investigate. On April 4th, they arrived at the quiet farm. The doors were locked. After forcing their way into the barn, they were met with a scene of unimaginable horror. There, stacked in a gruesome pile and lightly covered with hay, were the bodies of Andreas Gruber, his wife Casilia, their daughter Victoria, and the young granddaughter Casilia. They had all been lured into the barn one by one and brutally murdered. Inside the house, the search party made another horrifying discovery. In her bedroom, they found the body of the new maid, Maria Baumgartner, and in the nursery, in his cot, lay the body of the youngest victim, 2-year-old Joseph. The police were called, and the investigation began. The murder weapon was determined to be a mattock, a common farming tool similar to a pickaxe, which belonged to the family. The autopsies revealed the shocking brutality of the attack. Each victim had been struck with immense force. But the most disturbing finding was yet to come. The coroner determined that all the victims had likely died on the evening of Friday, March 31st. This is where the story takes a truly nightmarish turn. Remember the neighbors who saw smoke from the chimney on Saturday and Sunday? Remember how the cattle in the barn were fed and milked? The dog had been untied, and in the kitchen, investigators found evidence that someone had recently prepared and eaten meals. This means the killer, or killers, didn't just commit this horrific act and flee. No, they stayed. They stayed on the farm for several days, living alongside the bodies of their victims. They slept in the family's beds, ate their food, and tended to their livestock, all while the deceased family lay just feet away in the barn and in their bedrooms. The thought of this cold, calculated intruder making himself at home in the house of the dead is what elevates this case from a simple murder to the stuff of nightmares. Who could do such a thing? The investigation was extensive. Over 100 suspects were questioned over the years, but no one was ever charged. Theories ranged from a robbery gone wrong, though a large sum of money was found untouched in the house, to a crime of passion. One popular theory centered on Victoria's deceased husband, Carl Gabriel, who was reported killed in World War I. Some villagers whispered that he had not died in the war, but had returned to seek revenge, fueled by rumors that he wasn't the biological father of little Joseph. But his death in the trenches was confirmed by his comrades. Another primary suspect was the neighbor who discovered the bodies, Lorenz Schlittenbauer. He was known to have had an affair with Victoria and had claimed to be Joseph's father. His behavior following the discovery was considered suspicious by many. He seemed unusually familiar with the farm's layout and disturbed the crime scene. For years, he was the main person of interest, but there was never enough evidence to convict him. On his deathbed, years later, he allegedly made cryptic statements, but nothing that could definitively solve the case. Other theories point to a transient or a vagrant, a nameless drifter who stumbled upon the isolated farm, stalked the family, and then committed the heinous act, before calmly living amongst the aftermath and disappearing back into the wilderness. This fits with the footprints that led to the house but not away. Perhaps the killer simply walked back out the way he came, his tracks covered by a new layer of snow or lost in the woods. The farmstead of Hinterkaifeck was demolished in 1923, a year after the murders, as if to erase the terrible events that transpired there. A small memorial now stands where the farm once was, a solemn reminder of the 6 lives brutally taken. But the demolition of the buildings couldn't demolish the mystery. The police files were officially closed in 1955, but the case was re-examined as recently as 2007 by police academy students using modern investigative techniques. Their conclusion? After all this time, it is still impossible to definitively name the killer, though they did narrow it down to a single prime suspect, whose identity they chose not to release out of respect for living relatives. So, the question remains: who was the phantom visitor to Hinterkaifeck? Who stalked the Gruber family from the shadows, lived in their attic, and then systematically murdered them all? Who had the audacity to remain in the house for days, coexisting with the dead, before vanishing without a trace, never to be seen again? The mystery of Hinterkaifeck endures, a chilling testament to the fact that sometimes the most terrifying monsters aren't ghosts or supernatural entities. They are human beings, capable of unimaginable evil, hiding in plain sight, or watching us from the darkness, just beyond the trees. What do you think happened at Hinterkaifeck? Let me know your theories in the comments below, and if you want to explore more dark mysteries from the Black Box, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.